I've given up my status and my income, my regular paycheck, my stock options. And one day Sunisha, our founding country director for India, told me a quote, which he said, the quote's from an Urdu poet, who said he set off alone across the desert at night feeling lonely. And at one point he looked back and he saw the lights and he realized he was now leading a caravan. And that was always the goal at Room to Read. I've often said I do not want to be the leader of an organization. I want to be one of many, 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 many leaders of a global movement. And this is really important because quite often social entrepreneurship is the cult of the personality. The founder might be charismatic, they might be passionate, but they don't want to let go. And you absolutely have to get as many quality people on as you can, and then delegate, delegate, delegate. You trust, but you verify. But you got to trust and you got to delegate. From the very beginning at Room to Read, we've wanted to basically tap into the power of everyone out there who feels lucky to have gotten a good education and wants to give that back to kids all across the world. Our Boston chapter is one of our oldest chapters. We now have 57 fundraising chapters around the world. We now have university chapters, and I'm thrilled that we have a chapter here at Northeastern now. That is really great news for us because more of you can help us to reach more kids in more places. Dr. Fernando Reimers at the Harvard Graduate School of Education once said, an entrepreneur is a person who does things with resources he does not yet have. And that's pretty much the Room to Read story. Every year we make commitments to communities. Number of girls we're going to enroll in our program, number of schools we're going to open, number of classrooms we'll run literacy training, number of teachers we'll put through professional development, number of libraries we'll open. When we make those commitments in November, the team starts January 1, and then we go out to our fundraising network around the world, and we say, please help us. We've made these commitments. We've got to keep these commitments. There's an adage that if you want to get something done, ask a busy person. And that's pretty much what we do, is busy people know how to GSD. That was one of your quiz questions, right? What does GSD mean? Is that right? What does GSD mean? That's the R-rated version. What's the PG-13 version? What do you say around your little brother or your little sister? Okay, just want to make sure. But they're not here, are they? So let's GSD, Northeastern. Let's get more done. So we have these chapters all around the world now. 12,000 people, that's the caravan. And what's been most special to me is what has happened in the last 12 years. Because when I left Microsoft, I assumed that every single person who used to be my friend and my coworker was going to get excited about what I was doing now. And the reality is 90% of those people stopped returning my phone calls. And I learned a very difficult lesson, that most of them were hanging out with me because their job description required them to hang out with me. They worked for me. They ran the ad agency where I paid them the retainer. They ran the PR agency. Doesn't mean they were bad people, but the reality is a lot of people are not that passionate about changing the world. What's great now today with these chapters all around the world is 12,000 strong. There are people who work with us because they want to. They choose to. They're passionate. So while I gave up a lot to leave Microsoft to start Room to Read, what I've gained is unquantifiable. It's being surrounded by 12,000 superstar volunteers, 600 superstar employees, advocates everywhere who want to help us to do more and help us to continually stay in GSD mode. And then my final point I want to emphasize is the power of storytelling. Storytelling is a really important thing if we want to create social change. It's overlooked because it feels kind of squishy and intangible, but there's a reason I stood up here and presented all these images to you. Because there's an adage that people will not remember the words you spoke. They'll remember how you made them feel. And you notice these images are hopeful, colorful, optimistic. A lot of international development organizations want to show you pictures of kids dressed in rags, covered in flies, and make you feel guilty. And therefore guilt will get you to donate. We don't believe in that at all. We don't believe in objectifying the children. We think every single child is just waiting and eager and ready to learn. And we want to be good at storytelling. We want to be good at shining a light on exactly how much education means to these organizations. One of my heroes, this image is like, how priceless is this? That this girl is so convinced of the power of reading that she's inculcating the habit in her 6-week-old sister in the crib, literally reading to her on the side. But one of the highlights of my last couple of years has been being able to travel in Vietnam with one of my heroes, Nick Kristof, 2-time Pulitzer Prize winner along with his wife Cheryl Wu Trivia question, they're the first married couple to ever jointly win a Pulitzer Prize. Kind of sets a high bar for anybody else who's going to be married anytime soon. But that's beside the point. But we talked a lot about the power of storytelling, because Nick talks about the fact that through his column in the New York Times, Nick says, I'm in the lighting business. My job is to shine a spotlight on those who are doing good work for the world in the hope that people will then join that group and help them to do things, great things. But we all know that the NGO world is often where bad brands go to die. You've got a lot of groups out there that are afraid to really figure out how to do marketing. And we talked a lot about this because we were filming this thing called Half the Sky. And I love this picture when I got sent to me by my team. Because you look at it, Nick's one of my heroes. I was very nervous traveling with him to Vietnam. And he looks like really happy, right? He's interviewing me, and he looks really, really happy, and he's taking notes, and he's smiling. And usually Pulitzer Prize winning journalists don't smile. And then somebody on my team said, oh, you didn't look on the right part of the hard drive. So I actually want to show you what Nick Kristof looks like when he's skeptical. So this was kind of a scary photo. So you know what, let's not go with skeptical. Let's go back to happy and smiling. But the power of storytelling is such that I think we need to all be good at it. And many of you may know that at Room to Read, we said early on, we're going to subject ourselves to the Starbucks test. This was very simple, a very simple story. That if the world needs a good latte, the world damn well needs literacy. And we got to basically scale, and prove that the social sector can scale as fast as the private sector. Right? Starbucks is probably building a new location right next to the men's room out here right now. As we speak, it'll be open when we leave here. They're always opening new locations. Well, can we really scale as fast as Starbucks? We can't compete against them on salary. Our stock options are karmic stock options. You can't pay a mortgage with those. Right? We can't tap into the New York Stock Exchange for equity or for capital. Yet, what you see here is the power of GSD. This is Starbucks post-IPO, number of new locations there in green. Blue, number of new Room to Read libraries. We are out Starbucking Starbucks. This is really, really exciting. Now your job as a new chapter is to keep in mind that Starbucks had a good year 13. We've got to keep up, we've got to keep GSDing. Well, let me just in closing, talk about the fact that people ask me, do you ever miss it? Do you miss the perks? Do you miss the pay? Do you work your days working at Microsoft? And I think it's very fair to say that this picture was not taken at the launch ceremony for the new version of Windows Phone. They do have a phone product, by the way. It was taken at the opening of a new school in Laos. So I've made sacrifices. I'm 49 years old and I'm still renting. I don't know if I'll ever be able to afford a home in New York City where I live. But that's okay. I get a lot of psychic perks and I get to work with a lot of absolutely great people. And let me close with just one quick story. 7.8 million kids have now been impacted by Room to Read's work. We're going to reach 10 million by 2015. And sometimes large numbers can obscure reality. Mao once said that 1 million deaths is a statistic, but a single death is a tragedy. When we think about this, 10 million kids, what does that mean? 7 million kids, what does that mean? So I'll close with the story of a young man in the deserts of Rajasthan in northwest India. Our team was visiting the library and noticed this young chap was wearing a medal around his neck. And they asked him why he won the medal. And he responded to their questions by running away. And they thought, oh no, it scared him with our questions. And one of the teachers said, no, you didn't scare him, he's very proud. He won that medal for being in a school play. And he's very proud of it. So he's actually gone home, he's going to get his uniform from the play, his costume, and bring it back. So the kid came back about 10 minutes later with his skeptical grandmother dragging him back to school, not believing his story. And this turns out these kids had read a book in their Room to Read library about the Great Salt March, one of Gandhi's many attempts to get India to be independent and free from imperialism. And so I'm proud to show you, young Gandhiji, who here is reenacting the Great Salt March. And of course, at this point, all progress in the school stopped because the kids now want to reenact the reenactment of the Great Salt March. So you see here young Gandhiji marching towards the sea. And what I love most, kids in the developing world are so innovative. If they don't have a soccer ball, they'll put a bunch of rocks in a plastic water bottle and kick that around. Gandhiji is equally innovative. He obviously borrowed his Gandhi glasses from Michael Phelps, as you can see here. But he's one of 7.8 million kids we've reached. And now the goal for us going forward is to keep growing and growing and growing the number of children that we help and the number of children we reach. There are tens of millions of kids who have never heard of Room to Read. There are tens of millions of kids who will never enter a school. There are tens of millions of kids who will never be able to write their name if we don't act and if we don't think big about this. Our goal at Room to Read post-2015, post-reaching 10 million kids, is to continue to push the world to think bigger about this issue. And our goal long-term is to be part of a global movement that says no child should ever, ever again be told you were born in the wrong place, at the wrong time, to the wrong family, and you therefore will not get educated. We believe that notion belongs in the scrap heap of human history. We believe that together, we not only can put it there, we will put it there, and no child will ever be told wrong place, wrong time. They'll be told right place, right time, because we were there for you. I'll leave you with one closing thought. Thank you very, very, very much.